I'm Naomi Pierce, and I never thought I'd be the kind of woman to get blindsided by my own husband, standing in the living room with divorce papers in his hand, smirking like he'd won the lottery. I'm 41, a regional sales director in Charlotte, North Carolina. I had a good job, a solid savings account, and a heart that still believed in loyalty. But that morning, when my husband Lucas leaned against the doorway and said, "I don't need you anymore," it felt like the floor gave way beneath me. And then came the real punch. Dad's bank account has $500 million, Naomi. I'm set for life. You were just a placeholder until it hit. I felt sick. His father, who had just passed away days earlier, was a man I adored, someone who treated me like family from the moment we met. And now, Lucas was gloating over his death, reducing him to a dollar sign. I wanted to scream, to call him out as the selfish fraud he was. But something inside me, maybe my father-in-law's voice, told me to stay calm. So I grabbed the papers, signed them right there, and shoved them back at him. "File them yourself. Send my things when you're done." Then I walked out of that big brick house, past the manicured lawn and the life I thought we'd built. Lucas thought he'd won, but I knew the truth. That $500 million he was banking on wasn't what he thought. Let me back up. Before Lucas, I had been married once before. My first husband, Daniel, was a construction worker. We didn't have much, but we were happy. Then one morning, I got the call, an accident on site, and he didn't make it. Just like that, my world shattered. Between the insurance and a company settlement, I ended up with $500,000. It felt like dirty money, but his parents, sweet people in their 70s, told me to keep it. "Daniel would have wanted you to start over," they said. I tried to share with his brother and sister, but they waved it off. And there I was, 39, widowed, sitting on a pile of money I didn't want, living in silence. That's when Lucas entered my life. He was a sales rep from a partner company, always quick with a joke, always ready with a smile. He listened when I told him about Daniel, about the loneliness. For the first time in months, I laughed. Lucas was charming, with that boyish energy that made you forget his age. He told me stories about growing up under his father, a legendary developer who'd built malls across the Southeast. His mom had left when he was young, chasing a life she thought she deserved. Lucas always carried that chip on his shoulder, trying to prove himself. We started dating. Friends warned me it was too soon, but I ignored them. When he proposed over ribs at a barbecue joint, I laughed, thinking he was joking. But he was. "We're not getting any younger," he said with that cocky grin. Against my better judgment, I said yes. It was only after I agreed that he mentioned, oh so casually, that he was living with his father. "He's been sick," Lucas said with a shrug. "You'll like him." And I did. His father, Charles, was nothing like Lucas. He was sharp, witty, generous. We connected instantly, talking business trends and markets like old colleagues. Where Lucas rolled his eyes at details, his father leaned in, curious, engaged. When Lucas and I married, we moved into Charles's home. It made sense. He needed help, and the place was huge. Lucas claimed he'd quit his job to be a full-time caretaker. "I owe him that much," he said. I wanted to believe him. At first, it seemed sweet. He cooked, he cleaned, he actually tried. But the act didn't last long. Within a month, he was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through his phone while takeout bags piled up in the kitchen. His father noticed, too. One night, he pulled me aside and sighed. I hoped marriage would straighten him out, but Lucas has always been careless. Careless was putting it lightly. Soon, money started disappearing from my account. I'd given him access for emergencies. Big mistake. One afternoon, I came home to find a vintage Mustang gleaming in the driveway, a brand new purchase. My savings gone in a flash. "Dad's rich. Don't worry about it," Lucas shrugged, polishing golf clubs he'd also bought. But Charles wasn't rich in the way Lucas thought. In fact, one day Charles asked me into his study. "Naomi, I need your help," he said, voice low. He wanted me to help organize his estate because, in his words, Lucas is not reliable. And that's when I learned the truth. Charles had poured hundreds of millions into a community center project that failed. To fund it, he'd put up $500 million as collateral. If he couldn't recover it, the bank would seize it. He had a 2-year grace period, but his health was failing. So that money Lucas was banking on, it wasn't his to inherit, it was tied up in debt. When Charles passed, grief hit me hard. He had been more than a father-in-law, he was a mentor. But Lucas, he was PR. Actively dancing. He stormed into the living room with divorce papers in one hand and a smug grin. "I don't need you anymore," he said. "I checked Dad's accounts. $500 million, Naomi, I'm free." I stared at him, heartbroken but calm. I signed the papers on the spot. "Good luck," I said, and walked away. A week later, my phone rang. Lucas's voice was frantic. "Naomi, what the hell did you do? The bank says the account's locked. They told me the money's collateral." "Collateral? What does that even mean?" I let him rant before I answered. "It means your dad wasn't sitting on a fortune. He invested it and it failed. The bank's taking it to settle debts. All that's left is $75,000. That's your inheritance." Silence, then a choked whisper. $75,000, that's it? I quit my job, Naomi. I spent everything. I thought I'd be rich. I almost laughed. You assumed you'd hit the jackpot. You never once asked your father what his plans really were. You just saw dollar signs. Then came the begging. "Please, Naomi, let's fix this. Forget the divorce. You've got savings, a job, I've got nothing. Don't leave me like this." But it was too late. You made your choice, Lucas. Figure it out. And I hung up. In the end, Lucas sent me half of his inheritance, $37,000, probably just to avoid a fight. I heard later he tried going back into sales but couldn't handle the grind. Now, he's scraping by as a delivery driver, broke and bitter. Me, I bought a small condo downtown with a balcony overlooking the skyline. Every time I see that extra money in my account, I think of Charles. He believed in building things that mattered, not chasing quick fortunes. And that's what I'm doing now, rebuilding my life piece by piece. Lucas once told me I was nothing without him. Funny thing is, I've never felt stronger. So if you're listening and you've ever been blindsided, betrayed, or underestimated, remember this: sometimes losing someone who drags you down is the best inheritance you'll ever get. Stay steady. Keep building. Your future is worth more than any fortune.